Welcome back to Tell Me More, y'all. Abby Phillips goes crazy on MAGA. Scott Jennings. It gets wild in here. This is not me commentating when a video pauses. This is Chris on Culture. Shout out to Chris on Culture. He explains everything that's going on. But make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Let's get right into it. Let's go.
January 6th was a bad day.
Can I finish?
Murders are also bad.
Can I finish?
I want
Can I
murder
finish?
solved.
Can I finish?
Just let her finish.
Scott's gonna.
Well, if she wants to come out here and take pot shots at me, I'm not going to allow
Scott,
it.
I know
It's
you're
a stupid argument. I'm not going to allow it.
Scott, just let her finish.
I know
I don't even know that we've even heard the argument
No,
yet.
we heard it. We heard everything.
You were
Scott.
doing. So go ahead,
Scott, I
Julie.
know.
CNN's resident MAGA troll, Scott Jennings, got into a very heated argument with Democratic strategist Julie Roginski on Abby Phillip's CNN show. We're going to take a look at clips from this heated debate between Abby Phillip, Julie Roginski, Scott Jennings, and the rest of the panel. I will share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
Everything is an emergency, giving him extraordinary powers that are supposed to be temporary in many cases, but he's using them in ways that have never been used before. Where does this end, Scott?
Well, I guess in the case of safety for Washington, D.C., it'll end when it's safe again. I mean, and Congress may need to get involved here.
What do you define as safe again?
Well, what do you define as an acceptable rate of violence in the city? I think the expectation of the citizens is they don't want to die or get carjacked.
I think becomes a very important question. How do we define what safe again means in an American city?
Well, I think in Washington, D.C., you're going to have substantial reductions in violence, substantial reductions in murder, substantial reductions in carjackings, and people are generally going to have to feel like they can walk around and not be under threat all the time. Now, some of this could be statistical, some of it could just be what the local residents are telling him about their quality of life. Will it be solved in 30 days? Probably not, but they're already making substantial progress. They've had over 100 arrests since August the 7th when he first brought this up. 43 people were arrested last night. Bad people are being taken off the streets. Illegal weapons are being taken off the streets. So they're already having some success. My advice on this, as a punditry matter, would be, well, let's see where we are at the end of 30 days. How much progress have they made? And then Congressman can make an assessment at that point about whether this is working, and maybe it would help to extend it a little bit.
I guess I'm old enough, Scott, to remember when you were appalled, as the rest of us were, on January 6th, when he wouldn't.
Because January 6th happened, should we not enforce the law today?
Excuse me.
Do you want murders today?
Let me finish, Scott. I know
January 6th equals no enforcement
Scott, I know
of
you
mercy.
hate talking about
This is a silly argument.
No, let me finish before you make a point about a silly argument.
It'll be silly, but go ahead.
No, what's silly is you sitting down with Mitch McConnell over Chick-fil-A and lamenting how Donald Trump was putting all of you, including Mitch McConnell, in harm's way. But I guess now you're so.
I wasn't in harm's way. I was in Louisville.
No, your then boss, your friend Mitch McConnell certainly was. But now
January 6th was a bad day.
Can I finish?
Murders are also bad.
Can I finish?
I want murder solved.
Can I finish?
Just let her finish.
Scott's gonna.
Well, if she wants to come out here and take pot shots at me, I'm not going to allow it. It's a stupid argument. I'm not going to allow it.
Scott, just let her finish. I don't even know that we've even heard the argument yet.
No, we heard it. We heard everything.
You were doing. So go ahead,
Scott,
Julie.
I know you're thirsty for that Senate seat, but let me finish. What I'm going to say.
I mean, you allow this every night.
Scott, just give me 1 second here. Let's just let her finish, please.
Okay.
Just one
Listen, I know you've got the picking thing going on,
respond.
but here's what I'm going to say.
What are you thirsty for? Some kind of relevance out here?
No, actually, Scott.
I don't know what you do.
There is no one on the left, no one who's a Democrat, no one who's a liberal, whatever term you would use to be the opposite of Scott Jennings. There is no one who is saying, we don't care about murders. Who cares? Murder's fine. But this is the disingenuous thing that commentators, pundits, whatever term you want to use, that go on these shows on CNN and other networks like Scott Jennings, this is the disingenuous game that they play. And Scott Jennings talks about, we need to get to an acceptable level of violence. And when Abby Phillip asks him what that is, of course, he turns it back on her and won't directly answer the question. But what Scott Jennings will not admit, and it has been brought up over and over again on Abby Phillip's show on CNN, is that crime is down in Washington, D.C. It's at a 30-year low in Washington, D.C. But the dear leader lies about that and says Washington, D.C. is this horrible cesspool of constant crime and violence. And then his sycophants like Scott Jennings go on CNN and parrot these things. So you would think that before Donald Trump got back into office, last year in 2024, Violent crime was at a 30-year low in Washington, D.C. So whatever they're doing in Washington, D.C., up to Donald Trump coming in, appeared to be working. But Scott Jennings and the rest of MAGA just ignore all of that. And then his interaction here with Julie Roginski, I'm not going to allow that. She's blah, blah, blah. I mean, he just acts like a kid in junior high school, or even worse, a kid in elementary school. He says, I'm not going to allow that. It's not his show. It's Abby Phillip's show.
For a living.
Really? I elect a lot of Democrats. Let me finish my thought here, please. Can I just finish what I was about to say, which is that on January 6th, he could have deployed the National Guard. He chose not to. Now, today, because somebody named Big Balls got beat up, allegedly, he wants to deploy the National Guard to a place that has had a 30-year low in violence. And we all know that he is doing this because it's a power grab. He could have done this when this district was actually in danger on January 6th, but he didn't. And I think that's what's so offensive. He talks about backing the blue. He talks about law enforcement. He didn't give a damn, Scott. And you agreed back on January 6th. He didn't give a damn about those police officers and about the safety of people in Washington, D.C. Today, because he wants a power grab, he's doing this despite the fact that every statistic shows that Washington, D.C. has not been safer in the last 30 years. That's the
How is that going to fly? I mean, I don't know if this will ever go to a court. Maybe it will if he tries to get some kind of long-term extension. But how do you go from, 2023, which was not even a high, honestly, historically not a high for D.C., but a high in recent history, to now a 30-year low, to a few months ago, Donald Trump was saying crime in D.C. is so much better because of my people. He was saying that. And then go to Congress and say, we need indefinite authority over D.C.'s local police force? How is that going to work?
Well, the answer is no for me. He's reassigning hundreds of members of the U.S. military, hundreds of FBI agents. And I'm curious to know what federal law enforcement responsibilities are those agents neglecting in order to perform local police functions in D.C. And I just want to echo my agreement. Donald Trump is probably the greatest champion of lawlessness and disorder in our nation's capital. On the very first day of his presidency, he issued a blanket pardon for 1,500 people who were connected to a violent invasion of the U.S. Capitol, a violent invasion in which law enforcement officers were assaulted with dangerous weapons like fire extinguishers and pepper spray. And so he has no credibility on the subject of public safety at all.
So the truth of the matter is, and we all know it, I mean, if you're watching this video, you probably understand this. Donald Trump is an authoritarian. He wants to be an authoritarian, a dictator, like his buddies Putin and Kim Jong-un. And what he's doing in Washington, D.C. is a show of force. He's using the military in Washington, D.C. to crack down on crime, quote unquote, in an area where they're at a 30-year low in crime. He's putting in concentration camps like Alligator Alcatraz to house immigrants. The vast majority of them, 90+%, are nonviolent, have not committed any kind of crimes at all. They're just here in the country, working, living their lives, being productive citizens. But Donald Trump is an authoritarian. And these propagandists like Scott Jennings are authoritarians as well. They love this. Scott Jennings is never going to admit, even when presented with the facts, that crime is down in Washington, D.C. Now, would we love to be in a country, in a world where there's never a violent crime ever? There are never any murders? Yeah, that would be great. But that's not going to happen. But is the answer to dealing with violent crimes sending in the National Guard? I don't think so. But MAGA is authoritarian. These creeps like Scott Jennings are authoritarians. Sociologists and historians say that in any society, about 30% of the population is authoritarian. And Donald Trump has tapped into that. We see Scott Jennings smirking, his smug face, rolling his eyes, all of that every night on Abby Phillip's show. I think she does a really great job with her show, and I like her, but I wish she would be more stern with Scott Jennings. And just sometimes they just need to cut his mic entirely. Just say, hey, you're in a timeout, you toddler. You're behaving like a toddler. We're going to put you in timeout. Wouldn't you love to see Abby Phillip do that just one time? But let me know what you think about all this. Are you on the side of Abby Phillip and the Democratic strategist, Julie Roginski, or are you on the side of Scott Jennings?